If you clicked on this video and the E chord is not your friend, well, you're not alone. I'm going to show you some unique options that may help you find your go-to E chord voicing, and I'm going to show you some exercises that I teach my students that make playing the E chord so much easier. I also have 2 extra videos for you that have lots of different voicings in there. If I miss one or if you're looking for maybe a different one, I'm going to leave those in the cards above and the description box below. Now, the first way that I learned the E chord was actually this way, where you're barring across the 4th fret with finger number 3, and then finger number 1 is on the 2nd fret of the string closest to your toes. When working with this option, you really want to focus on this portion of your finger right where the pad and the knuckle are, at least for me, and then I push it close to the fret as possible without being on top of it, and so then you can get a little lift so that A string rings out. But a lot of people find this one just a little bit difficult. So here's a little bit of a variation here where you're incorporating all of your fingers besides your thumb. Leave the index finger where it is, and then you're going to take your middle finger, place that on the 4th fret of the G string. Ring finger is going to be placed on the 4th fret of the C string, and then your pinky will be on the E string. So you see you're essentially making that same shape like this, but now you're just using these 3 fingers so that it can just be out of the way so that you have more of a chance of letting all of those strings ring out. The next option incorporates this technique with this technique, kind of mashes them together, and I call it the double up. The reason why it's doubling up is because it's using the ring finger and it's pushing down on strings 3 and 4. Do you see that? It's using basically the pad of my finger. I wish you could see these indentations here. Then my pinky is going to be placed on the 4th fret of the E string, and your index finger is on the 2nd fret of the A string, just like in the other chord voicings. So you can see that I haven't really changed what notes I'm playing. I'm just changing the way I'm playing them, right? I'm switching some fingers around, trying to see which one is going to be the best for me. Another variation is taking all 4 of your fingers and placing them on each string on the 4th fret, but just pushing down on strings 2, 3, and 4, but lightly touching the pinky with the A string, because you're essentially getting that triad, that 1, 3, 5 with these 3 fingers. This next unique E variation, actually a student of mine came up with. She said, well, I actually hold this E7 chord like this. I'm pushing down on the 1st fret and the 2nd fret here on strings 1 and 4, but my middle finger is just lightly touching the C string. Now this one may surprise you because a lot of people think, oh, it's a bar chord, I automatically can't do it, which I think that if you try it, you might be surprised. Why? Because it's more so in the middle of the fretboard. The greatest amount of tension on your ukulele is going to be here toward the nut and here towards the bridge and saddle. I mean, if you just feel it, just strum against it like this with a thumb or your finger, it feels very stiff. Like that. And I feel as if though the first bar chords, or the fundamental ones that you first learn, are very close to the nut. There's a lot of tension there. Now with this bar chord E option, what you're going to do is that you're going to take your index finger, you're going to bar across the 4th fret. But you notice how it's not straight up and down? It's more so rolled onto its side at an angle. So if you were to look at the indentations that the strings have made on my finger, they're more so onto the side of my finger, not here on the flat of my finger. What happens is that if you use this portion of your finger, because that there are natural bends in your finger like this, it's going to be a little bit harder maybe to produce a clear sound, and then people end up squeezing harder, causing more tension on their wrists and fingers. It becomes a thing. It's not quite fun. So what you're going to do is you're going to roll more so onto the side. You see my elbow just comes a little bit closer to my body. Sometimes just depends upon who you are, that might help you. And then my ukulele neck is more so up at a 45-degree angle like this, and then my pinky is going to be on the 7th fret of the A string. Do you see that? A lot of people, they can actually play the E chord by themselves, but when they try to incorporate it into an actual song, it kind of falls apart, like the wheels fall off the vehicle. And so this is a technique that I use with my students quite a bit, and I call it the empty space technique. Pay attention to how I switch between my E and my A. And then I'm going to slow it down, and I'm really going to point out what that little technique is. Just 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. Here comes the A. And 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and... When I switched from my E to my A, I kept the strumming hand I kept the strumming hand going, right? And you probably heard some open notes. But just thinking about leaving the chord early by a count on the last down up, so you're already transitioning, ready to hit the next chord on the downbeat on count 1. And then with switching between my A and my E chord, especially when I'm using this voicing or even this one, these fingers will cover the strings and all you hear is just a chicka, chicka. You probably didn't notice it because when you're strumming, it was so fast you didn't even notice it. And I think that's what people think. They have to play the chord for the entire 4 counts and then they have to switch the last minute. But just thinking about leaving the chord early by a count on the last down up, so you're already transitioning, ready to hit the next chord on the downbeat. Now, if I'm going to use maybe like a variation of the island strum, down, up, down, up, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, maybe you'd be able to hear the transition a little bit more if I slow it down. And this works for any chord transition, really. Especially with that strumming pattern, you know, I was incorporating some muting in there, just helped me transition from one chord to the next. What I suggest you do when you're first trying to practice this technique, first just find the E chord that is going to be best for you, work on that E chord, and when you've built up that strength and that muscle memory and you're like, yeah, I got a good sounding E chord, then I suggest you add an A chord in there because it's a nice open chord, gives your hand a break, right? And your brain a break. Once you get a good E and it sounds comfortable and pretty confident, then you transition to an A on 8th notes. Down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. On the last 2 8th notes, think about keeping the beat, but then just transition to that A chord. It's really going to help just practice that transition and build your confidence, because then when you put that within the context of a song, it just makes it feel less scary. It's less intimidating because you've unlocked the secret of transitioning between your E chord and your other chords. Let me know if there's any way that I can help. Is there any technique where you're like, man, hey Katie, what do you got? Can you help me with this? If you are new to the ukulele and you want something that is just going to set you off on the right foot from beginning to end to just help you fly on your own, I have an ukulele course on Patreon. It's very affordable. It has all of the chord charts. Everything is in sequential order to be able to turn into a confident beginner. No more scrolling endlessly on YouTube. It's right there on Patreon. And if you also want free tutorials, they're over here. Remember, you are loved. Bye.